Okay, good morning, guys. Good morning. What a day we had yesterday, right? Not yesterday only, but the last few days have been amazing, right? The last few days have been amazing, right? Why? Because options move so fast on this huge volatility, right? It's just been amazing to see what people are achieving in the group on the downside, which many of you otherwise would be stuck buying calls on the dips, right? Because that's what you're conditioned ever since you're born. Um, but SPX now, when we zoom out, the pattern is getting better and better and better. Basically, for the coming months, it's very hard for me to say anything like we're gonna see all time highs soon. I don't think we are anytime soon yet, right? Just my opinion. But now this pattern is looking cleaner and cleaner and cleaner, right? The longer we hold below these averages, right? Usually, what happens on a 50 and 200 MA, whether it's daily, weekly, monthly, you touch it, you bounce, and then you continue your trend, or you break it once, right, or flag it, and then come back up, continue the pattern, test it one more time maybe, and then continue up. But this time we broke it once, twice, three times, four times they tried, fifth, and now on the sixth attempt they're like, no, you're not coming back up here, go back down. So now the trend is basically to the downside. All right, we have officially entered a downtrend on SPX. Right, like I can say that now every time we retest this 50 MA, we're probably gonna touch it, come back down again. All right, that should be the pattern, but let's see, unless we get some crazy news that's going to change some monetary policy, and then we go up. So for the next few weeks, next few months, get used to it. All right, the only thing here now is this very strong support level is what we need to see hold underneath if you're playing downside. If you're in puts, right, personally, I've scaled out a lot and I'm holding some, obviously, right, made some of my positions free, and now we see, do we hold this support or do we break it, right? We had a huge move down, right? I don't think we're going to continue going down just straight, because for that we need a major event, we need some major negative news, something for the market to flush lower, right? There is some negative gamma here that has built up, right? You can, just by looking at it, you should be able to tell. Eventually, one of these days, we will have a snapback relief rally. It's also mentioned in the gamma report as well, where the more puts will be sold, right? And then dealers will probably buy back some equities, and then we'll get that green days, right? And we need those green days. It will only make sense then, right? We need those green days to reload up on our positions, maybe, if you believe in the downside, or maybe adjust however one needs to. But the most important levels on SPX now are, currently the most important level is 4150. We need to hold above 4150, right? This level right here, we haven't approached it, but we just need to continue holding above 4150. If we retest it, I think 4150 will be a great support buy for calls, maybe, all right, depending on the flow as well. And then the increments of 50 this time, so 4200, 4250, and 4300. And if you want to know the levels in between, then I would have to pull up the hourly chart, and then we can go on from there. All right, and then the volatility trigger is way above at 450, which is far for now. All right, and then obviously we had Microsoft earnings passed, we had Google earnings passed, and we'll go over them shortly. But for now, SPX, as long as we dance around these levels, volatility will be high. Do we get a continuation candle today, or do we get something of a morning star type candle, or a bottoming candle here for a few days? I have no idea. Let's see how it's gonna go. It is Wednesday, so another expiration, and now we have 4 expirations: Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Friday. All right, so SPX, we're just at a very critical support level. You want to manage your positions here, you want to manage your puts, and then we see what happens from here. All right, I do expect the rally towards 4300 at least. I do expect this retest if it happens, right? This 4300 retest, I think it will only make sense if we retest this, come back here and break it. But however, if we break through this straight, then the next pattern should be that we come back up, we retest these levels, right, and then come back down. All right, and then obviously this is the downside I spoke about. To the upside is pretty simple. We have a reversal candle here, we flag whatever has to happen, we go up here, and then above 4300 we go retest, and then to the upside, obviously. So stay open-minded. I'm not just pointing to a downside, but I would rather play the downside, right? I mean, these green candles will be misleading in this market, exactly like this, right? A lot of warnings were sent to you guys by me and LB, especially on this green candle. Be careful holding positions overnight. A lot of people on this green candle bought positions overnight in calls around the globe, obviously, like we can tell by looking at the flows, and then next day gap down and straight down. All right, so just know these things. And gamma today, we have these levels. Implied volatility to the high is 42.26, to the downside is 41.20. So let's see what happens here today. It's gonna be swing. There will be wild swings both ways today. So let's see how that takes place. All right, on to Google earnings. So they missed their earnings per share. Their revenues were sort of in line, right? Now they did warn. The CFO said that the next quarter, they face challenges. It's going to be a bit hard, right? They did announce a $70 billion buyback, and then Russia also, the operation in Russia, it cost them 1% of their revenue, right? In 2021, Google had 1% revenue in Russia, but earnings passed. The stock is down 100 points, but now let's look at it technically, right? Now SPX, the chart that we just went over, by the way, this is the scenario I'm looking at, guys. For SPX to break down, you guys see this scenario on Google? That's exactly what I'm looking for, basically. So we are at the brink, right? This is exactly where we are on SPX, basically. Just technically, if you guys can see it, right? This is where we are, sort of right here, right? So now we want a little green day, we want a little rally, we want to hold, and then as soon as we see the flow, and then this is the move that we want to catch, right? But if it goes straight down, then let it come straight down, then we'll scalp it, then we see what happens. Okay. So, but Google just looking, let's just go over the technicals a little bit, because Google's chart gave this to us before the earnings gave it to us, right? And LB also gave a warning a few days back. If you break 2,500, expect a violent move, and that's exactly what happened. We're below the 50 MA on the weekly, very weak. We broke through these supports, and now Google is clearly headed towards this MA. Now, many of you guys are not going to believe this again, that, oh, Google's going to go to 1,800. I'm not saying it's going to go to 1,800. What's going to happen here, in my opinion, that maybe Google goes green today. I don't know. Maybe it goes back up. Maybe it comes back towards 2,500, 2,600 in the coming weeks. I have no idea, right? But by the time this moving average also catches up, right? And then Google should retest this on the weekly on the 200 MA. That's how the things are shaping up for the coming weeks and months. And then from here, we can probably see a reversal back up. All right. So this is going to take many months. Long story short, Google is done for many months to the to all-time highs or for a significant upside. Google is now a trading stock in between ranges. You can really draw your trends, supports, and play off the bounces, right? And they will work great. You can now draw lines on Google, right? My first line would be right here on the low of this wick, for example. Why is this? Okay, the color is white. Right, my first line would be here, and then obviously depending on your support level, then the opening, closing of these wicks, however you want, and you can play in these lines now, right? And then obviously you have resistance at 2550 and so on. And this will become a great trading stock within ranges. So take advantage of Google for the next few months until it lasts. All right. And then Microsoft pretty impressive earnings. They beat their earnings per share. They beat their revenue. Right. Very impressed. And Satya Nadella is just a very smart CEO, I think. And their cloud growth has been very strong. It's been growing. Azure has been doing great. And then they give a strong outlook. Right. When a company gives a strong outlook in this market, I mean, that's positive. Right. Google, excuse me, guys. Google's one is strong now. Microsoft, their outlook is strong. You guys can dig more into the earnings. There's a lot more to it. They have different sectors where they had strong growth. Their commercial sector, Microsoft picked up a lot. All right, so they had actually growth across the board, which is impressive. But weekly chart does not look good. But today on Microsoft, I can tell you guys one right now. 280 is a very important number. All right, we hold above 280. I'll just write this down. We hold about 280. Market holds. Microsoft can see 290 plus, and at 300, it will present an opportunity. I'm gonna write this down for you guys, so you guys can write this down, for swing in puts. Right now, Microsoft had great earnings, that's fine, but then there's just some things that earnings don't have to do much with it. Is the macroeconomics. A lot of things have to go along with it. So if Microsoft gives us a retest of 300 on the weekly, I will probably play to the downside, because I do see a retest of 270. They'll probably go and fill this gap, and then we see what happens. But that's a scenario if it plays out to the upside. But today, if Microsoft does not hold 280, then we do have this gap to fill all the way towards 270. And you know what, if Amazon, their earnings are not good and they flush, then Microsoft will break 270 this time and go much lower. All right, so don't think just because the earnings are great the stock cannot go down. The stock price has nothing to do with the company sometimes, right? The stock can be going up massive, the company could be losing money, the company could be making a lot of money and the stock price could be falling down. That happens in the stock market. So Microsoft at 300, I think it'll present a great short opportunity. That's just my opinion. I'll probably definitely take some shorts. And if today we don't hold 280, then 270 is also possible. It might even give up all the gains. All right. And then Apple and Amazon we have tomorrow. Then we see which way they navigate, because those earnings will also be important. And once those earnings are through, next week we're heading into FOMC, and then obviously the Russia default. All right, and then we see what happens from there. And I think that's when these supports might be broken, or we might get, if the relief rally happens, then across the board green candles are going to happen. So you have to stay very open-minded and follow the flow very, very closely on daily basis to pick up those moves. Okay. Visa, amazing earnings. So they had transactional growth all over their sectors, and then their travel recovery was massive. I think it was the biggest, right? From their travel recovery, the spending was up huge. And then Indian operations, right? This I found interesting. Since 2019, their Indian operations, the growth is 80%. And India has a billion plus population. A lot more people still, catching on to the digital, and so that's a massive growth opportunity for them more. But Visa just did amazing. They beat their earnings, they beat their revenue, and they just killed it, right? And with higher prices on inflation, my grocery that was costing me 200 now costing 400. So of course the transaction growth is crazy, and the stock just ripped. So let's see. But I think this is also bullish for Amazon as well in certain ways. And Amazon's also up pre-market. But Visa, I think if it can get to 220, 230 around these levels, I'll probably take a short for a scalp around these levels, right? And then we see what happens. But for now, for me, it's in no man's land. Here, it's in no man's land. As long as Visa trades in this zone right here, for me, it's in no man's land. Like, I don't know what's going to happen in this zone, up or down. It's very choppy, right? So why not just wait until strong resistances, right? You wait for strong resistances, you have a higher chance of catching a move to the downside, right? And then you want to play calls at the bottom if you want to play. But playing in between is nothing but a gambler's bet. So good luck with that. And guys, with this, I'll just end it. So I'll run with 3 charts. Apple, Amazon, let's see what happens. Today, stay open-minded, because today, if the market holds, we can rally all day. I have no idea, right? And if we break yesterday's lows, then we can go low and then rally at the end of the day. I have no idea. So it's going to be a tricky day today. There's no doubt, because we had directional moves for the last pretty much 4 days almost, right? Pretty much the last 4 days we've been getting a full directional day, and then on Monday we had a down and then a rip, and yesterday all day down. So what happens today? We are at critical support. I don't think it breaks so easy, but if it does, then that just gives us a big warning sign, right? So let's see what happens. So gotta be very, very careful. Take some profits on your puts. God bless. See you guys back in the chat.